The warning shot wasn't supposed to hit her boat. She didn't panic when water started seeping through the hull, didn't radio for help, didn't even look concerned. Instead, she made one phone call. Within minutes, a helicopter landed on the Navy vessel. The highest-ranking intelligence officer in the Pacific personally saluted her from across the water. The officers who fired that shot, their careers ended that day. They never knew who she really was until it was too late. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If you enjoy stories about extraordinary people hiding in plain sight, consider subscribing. We share new content every week. The South China Sea glimmers under the early morning sun as Linnea Riker's sleek vessel cuts through calm waters. The boat, christened the Quietus, moves with purpose despite appearing to drift leisurely. From a distance, she appears to be just another solo sailor. Athletic build, weather-appropriate attire, quiet competence in her movements. Nothing about her suggests anything extraordinary. Linnea adjusts her course slightly, checking her position on both standard charts and a custom satellite system that sits partially hidden in the navigation console. The equipment hums quietly, technology that doesn't match the boat's civilian appearance. She's precisely where she needs to be, drifting purposefully toward the edge of a contested maritime boundary. The sea breeze tousles her salt-streaked auburn hair as she scans the horizon methodically. Her weathered hands suggest years of experience, though her age remains difficult to determine. She could be anywhere from late 30s to early 50s. Something about her carries both youthful vitality and the weight of accumulated experience. A notification flashes on her screen. Approaching vessel. Linnea glances up, unsurprised to see a naval patrol ship changing course to intercept. She had been expecting company for the past hour. The USS Haverford, if her intelligence is correct. She continues her methodical adjustments to her instruments, seemingly unconcerned by the approaching military vessel. On the Haverford's bridge, Lieutenant Commander Thackeray Wells observes the civilian vessel through binoculars. His expression tightens with concern as he notes the boat's heading. She's still on course for the restricted zone, he comments to no one in particular. Lieutenant Commander Zalman Price, the ship's executive officer, steps up beside him. Price's posture is rigid, his uniform immaculate. Everything about him speaks to ambition and adherence to protocol. Civilian vessel on bearing 140, Wells says into the radio. This is the USS Haverford. You are approaching restricted waters. Alter your course immediately. Through the binoculars, they watch as Linnea acknowledges with a polite wave. She continues her heading unchanged. She's acknowledging but not complying, Price notes, a hint of annoyance creeping into his voice. Likely another activist testing boundaries. Let's not jump to conclusions, Wells responds, though doubt edges into his voice. Issue another warning. Price takes the radio. Civilian vessel, this is the USS Haverford. You are entering restricted waters. Change course now, or we will be forced to take action. Again, Linnea offers a pleasant non-committal response. A simple nod visible through their binoculars. Her boat maintains its heading. Sir, Price says, turning to Wells, regulations are clear about unauthorized vessels in restricted waters, especially with Chinese naval activity increasing in the region. She could be gathering intelligence. Wells studies the woman through his binoculars. Something doesn't fit the profile of typical boundary-pushing activists or tourists who accidentally stray too far. The boat is too high-end, too well-maintained, and the woman too calm, too deliberate in her movements. Final warning, Wells decides, taking the radio himself. Civilian vessel, this is your final warning. Alter course immediately, or we will be forced to fire warning shots. Aboard the Quietus, Linnea receives the message with the same calm demeanor. She checks her watch, then a series of readings on her specialized equipment. Everything is proceeding according to plan. She makes a minor adjustment to her heading, not enough to take her away from the restricted waters, but enough to be noticeable. Back on the Haverford, Price observes the slight change in direction. She's taunting us, sir, making minimal adjustments to appear cooperative while continuing her approach. Wells hesitates, then nods grimly. Prepare to fire a warning shot. Aim well clear of the vessel, standard distance protocol. Yes, sir, Price responds, unable to hide his satisfaction. He relays the orders to the weapons station. The warning shot cracks across the water, but something goes wrong. Instead of splashing harmlessly beside the quietus, it clips the hull near the waterline. Water immediately begins seeping in. "What the hell happened?" Wells demands, grabbing the binoculars again. "That was too close." "Sir, the sea conditions must have affected the trajectory," Price offers quickly. "The targeting was correct." Wells curses under his breath, grabbing the radio. "Civilian vessel, this is USS Haverford. Do you require assistance? We're preparing rescue operations." Through their binoculars, they watch for panic, a distress signal, a mayday call, any sign of alarm from the lone woman aboard the damaged vessel. Instead, Linnea calmly steps into her cabin and retrieves a satellite phone unlike any standard model. The device is sleek, black, with no visible markings or branding. She makes a single call, speaking just 6 words. Amaranthine, South China Sea, Wells, confirmed. Price scoffs as they observe her through the binoculars. Who's she calling? Her lawyer? Wells doesn't answer. Something about the woman's calm efficiency sends a chill up his spine. Her reaction doesn't match the situation. No panic, no anger, not even concern about her damaged vessel. Just that strange, deliberate call. "Sir," one of the junior officers calls from the communication station. "We're picking up unusual activity on secured channels. Something's accessing our systems." Wells turns sharply. "What do you mean, something? Be specific." "I'm not sure, sir. It's like our encryption protocols are being bypassed. We're receiving a direct transmission on a classified frequency." Before Wells can respond, all communication systems on the Haverford malfunction simultaneously. Screens flicker, encryption protocols fall, and a digitally altered voice emerges from their speakers. "USS Haverford, this is Stratcom Override Protocol 7. You have engaged a Phantom-class asset. Authentication code, November, Echo, Mike, Echo, Sierra, India, Sierra." The bridge falls silent. Every officer stares at the speakers, then at each other. Price turns to Wells, confusion evident on his face. "Sir, what is this?" The color has drained from Wells's face. He recognizes the code, something from a classified briefing he received years ago when taking command. Something he was told would likely never happen during his career. "Stand down all weapons systems," Wells orders, his voice tight. "Now." "But sir, we don't know who—" "That's an order, Lieutenant Commander," Wells snaps. "Stand down all weapons and prepare to receive incoming transmission." Price hesitates, then relays the orders. The tension on the bridge thickens as they wait. "Sir," the communications officer calls, "we're receiving a secure video transmission. It's coming through on the emergency command channel." "Put it on the main screen," Wells orders. Admiral Elawan Caswick appears on screen, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun, her uniform adorned with rows of decorations. Behind her, several figures remain partially obscured, men and women in both military and civilian attire, their faces deliberately kept out of frame. "Commander Wells," Caswick says, her voice tight with controlled fury. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Wells stands at attention. "Admiral, we engaged an unresponsive civilian vessel approaching restricted waters following standard protocol. The warning shot inadvertently struck the hull." "That's not some tourist," Caswick cuts him off. "That's Linnea Riker." Price steps forward. "With respect, Admiral, who is Linnea Riker?" The Admiral's face hardens. "Someone you're not cleared to know about, Lieutenant Commander." Multiple satellite feeds suddenly redirect to the bridge screens. The crew watches footage of a woman, unmistakably the same woman on the boat, from operations spanning more than a decade. The first shows her extracting 12 American hostages from a facility thought impenetrable in a Middle Eastern country. Another video shows her single-handedly preventing a bioterror attack in Singapore. A third reveals her receiving a medal from a former president in a classified ceremony. "Riker isn't just an asset," Admiral Caswick explains. "She designed the Phantom program. Half the protocols your systems run on were created by her. When she went private, 3 separate intelligence agencies signed agreements guaranteeing her complete autonomy." Wells feels the weight of the situation crushing down on him. "Admiral, there was no notification of a sanctioned operation in this region. Nothing in our daily briefings." "Because there wasn't supposed to be," Caswick responds sharply. That boat you fired on? It's gathering data on unauthorized Chinese incursions that official Navy vessels can't approach without causing an international incident. Meanwhile, on a secondary screen, they can see Linnea still aboard her vessel. The damage appears minimal. She's already deployed some kind of self-sealing compound on the hull breach. She remains on her satellite phone, her expression unchanging as she speaks. "Who is she talking to?" Price asks, unable to hide his concern. Caswick's expression darkens further. The Secretary of Defense, who has already awakened the President. This incident has triggered an automatic audit of the entire Pacific Command structure. Wells feels his stomach drop. "Admiral, I take full responsibility. My crew was following my orders." "This goes beyond you, Commander. 3 people in your chain of command knew about Phantom protocols and failed to implement them. The system failed before you even made contact with her vessel." A commotion draws everyone's attention as a junior officer rushes onto the bridge. "Sir, a helicopter is approaching. It's not responding to identification requests." Wells looks to the Admiral on screen, who nods curtly. "Let it land. That's Director Frost from Naval Intelligence." The bridge falls silent. Quillen Frost is almost a mythical figure, the head of Naval Intelligence whose face rarely appears in any official capacity. His arrival in person signals the severity of the situation. "Admiral," Wells asks, "what happens now?" "Effective immediately, this patrol unit is suspended. Lieutenant Commander Price will be reassigned pending investigation. 2 admirals have already tendered resignations for the failure in communication protocols." Price steps forward, face flushed. "Admiral, this is not open for discussion, Lieutenant Commander," Caswick cuts him off. The helicopter approaches rapidly, and Wells dismisses the crew to prepare for Frost's arrival. As they scatter to their duties, Wells remains alone on the bridge, watching Linnea's vessel through the windows. Through his binoculars, he can see her finishing her call and returning to repairing the hull damage. Her movements are precise, efficient, the actions of someone who has faced far worse than a minor hull breach. For the first time, he notices subtle details about her boat. Reinforced sections that don't match civilian designs. Antenna arrays disguised as ordinary equipment. The unusual thickness of what should be standard glass. The helicopter lands on the Haverford's deck with precision. From it emerges a tall, lean man with salt and pepper hair, and the bearing of someone accustomed to authority without needing to display it. Director Quillen Frost wears no uniform, only a tailored dark suit that somehow conveys more authority than any military decoration. Frost doesn't acknowledge any of the crew. He walks directly to the edge of the deck, facing Linnea's vessel, stands at attention, and renders a formal salute that holds for an uncomfortably long time. Through his binoculars, Wells watches as Linnea finally acknowledges the salute with a small nod. The exchange feels ancient and ceremonial, a protocol from another era. "What just happened?" Price whispers, having appeared at Wells' side. "Recognition," Wells responds quietly. "When a sovereign asset has been compromised," Price stares at him. "A what?" Before Wells can explain, Director Frost turns and approaches them. His eyes, sharp, evaluating, cold, scan both officers before settling on Wells. "Commander, we need to talk." The Haverford's conference room feels smaller than usual as Director Frost takes position at the head of the table. Wells and his senior officers sit in rigid silence, the weight of the situation evident in their postures. Price's jaw works silently, clearly struggling to contain his objections. "Gentlemen," Frost begins, his voice surprisingly soft for a man with such authority. "What happened today was a catastrophic failure of intelligence protocol, not tactical judgment." He activates a secure tablet, and a holographic display materializes above the conference table. Classified files, security clearances, operational parameters far beyond anything Wells has ever been authorized to see. Linnea Riker is one of 17 Phantom-class assets operating globally. These individuals work independently of standard command structures, but with full authorization from the highest levels of government. Frost's eyes scan the faces around the table. Most of you will never encounter another one in your careers. Commander Wells was briefed on their existence as a formality when he took command. A briefing intentionally designed to be forgettable unless activated by a specific need-to-know situation. Wells feels a chill as he recalls the briefing. a seemingly routine overview of obscure protocols he'd assumed would never apply to him. "Sir," Price interjects, unable to contain himself any longer. "With respect, how are we supposed to avoid this if we weren't properly informed? This seems like an institutional failure, not our unit's responsibility." Frost regards Price with a measuring look. "That's precisely what it is, Lieutenant Commander. 3 flag officers in your direct chain of command received quarterly updates on phantom operations in their areas of responsibility. All 3 failed to implement proper notification protocols." He taps his tablet, and new information appears in the holographic display. "Effective immediately, Lieutenant Commander Price will be reassigned. This entire patrol unit is suspended pending review. 2 admirals have already tendered resignations for the failure in communication protocols." Price stands, face flushed. "Sir, this is completely unjust. We followed standard procedure for an unresponsive vessel in restricted waters." "Your assessment was tactically sound," Frost acknowledges, "but your response to the situation after identifying yourself to the vessel was not. You pushed for escalation rather than caution." "We fired a warning shot," Price protests, "not direct action." "A warning shot that struck the vessel," Frost counters. "But that's not why you're being reassigned. Your file shows a pattern of aggressive interpretation of rules of engagement. Today it intersected with a situation you weren't equipped to evaluate correctly." Wells clears his throat. "Sir, how were we supposed to know? There was nothing in our daily briefings about—" "There wasn't supposed to be," Frost interrupts. "That's the point. The best assets are the ones nobody knows to look for. The protocols exist for exceptional circumstances, not routine operations." Frost directs his attention to the entire group. Linnea Riker has saved more American lives than everyone on this ship combined. She operates without recognition because her effectiveness depends on anonymity. Today, you compromise that. The officers exchange uncomfortable glances as the magnitude of the situation sinks in. One of them finally asks the question they're all wondering. "Sir, what exactly does she do?" Frost considers the question before answering. "Riker specializes in operations that cannot exist officially. When governments need complete deniability combined with absolute effectiveness, they call her. The boat you encountered today is gathering intelligence on Chinese military developments in these waters. Information our official vessels can't collect without risking international incidents." He turns back to Wells. "Commander, your immediate concern should be the audit that's been triggered. Every decision made by this unit over the past 6 months will be scrutinized. Every order, every communication, every judgment call." Wells nods, accepting the inevitable. After a moment's consideration, he asks, "Sir, request permission to personally apologize to Ms. Riker." The request clearly surprises Frost, who studies Wells with renewed interest. "Why?" "Because someone should acknowledge the error directly, sir. If I'm the commanding officer responsible, it should be me." Frost considers this, then nods. "Granted, she's still repairing her hull. I'll have a launch prepared." As the other officers file out, Frost motions for Wells to remain behind. Once they're alone, his demeanor shifts subtly, less the imposing intelligence director, more a weary veteran. "Wells, there's something you should understand about Riker. She's not angry about what happened today." "Sir?" "This incident served a purpose. The fact that you encountered her at all means someone in your chain failed to implement crucial security protocols. That failure needed to be exposed." Wells processes this information. "You're saying she deliberately put herself in our path?" "Riker tests systems by finding their breaking points," Frost explains. "Today she found one. Now we can fix it before someone with less benevolent intentions exploits the same gap." Wells feels a strange mix of relief and deeper concern. Then why the suspensions? The resignations? Because failure still has consequences, especially when lives depend on these systems working correctly. Frost closes his tablet. "The launch will be ready in 15 minutes. I suggest you prepare what you want to say to her carefully." 20 minutes later, Wells stands awkwardly on the deck of the Quietus as Linnea repairs her hull with practiced efficiency. The damage is minor, a small puncture that she's treating with some kind of advanced polymer sealant that hardens on contact with the hull material. Her movements are precise, economical, with none of the hesitation a typical civilian would show when performing emergency repairs. "Ms. Riker," Wells begins formally, "I want to apologize for—" "Commander," she interrupts without looking up from her work. "I put myself in your path. This was a scheduled test of response protocols. Your tactical assessment was correct. Your intelligence briefing was not." Her voice carries no hint of accusation, just matter-of-fact assessment. Wells is struck by how different she seems up close. Her eyes reflect a depth of experience that makes him feel like a novice despite his years of service. "They're dismantling our entire unit because of this," he says, unable to keep a trace of bitterness from his voice. Linnea finally looks up, her eyes sharp and evaluating. "Number? They're restructuring because 3 people in your chain of command knew about phantom protocols and failed to implement them. The system failed, not you." She sets aside her repair tools and reaches into a waterproof case, extracting a small, unmarked device no larger than a thumb drive. "When you're reassigned next month, and you will be reassigned, not discharged, plug this into any secure terminal. It will give you access to the real briefings you should have had." Wells takes the device cautiously. How do you know? The Haverford's conference room is tomb silent as Director Frost addresses Wells and his senior officers. Frost stands at the head of the table, his posture perfect, his expression unreadable. He hasn't touched the coffee placed before him. "Effective immediately, Lieutenant Commander Price will be reassigned. This entire patrol unit is suspended pending review. 2 admirals have already tendered resignations for the failure in communication protocols." Price stands, face flushed. "Sir, this is excessive. We followed standard engagement procedures for an unresponsive vessel in restricted waters." "Not the time for protests, Lieutenant Commander." Frost cuts him off, his voice level but carrying unmistakable authority. "Linnea Riker has saved more American lives than everyone on this ship combined. She operates without recognition because her effectiveness depends on anonymity. Today, you compromise that." The officers exchange uncomfortable glances. Most of them had never heard the name Linnea Riker until today. Wells clears his throat. "Sir, how were we supposed to know? There was nothing in our briefing about any sanctioned operation in this sector." "There wasn't supposed to be," Frost interrupts. "That's the point. The best assets are the ones nobody knows to look for." He activates a small device on the table. A 3-dimensional projection appears, showing a detailed map of the South China Sea with numerous overlapping zones marked in different colors. This region has 17 different territorial claims from 5 different nations. The official Navy position is to maintain freedom of navigation while avoiding unnecessary confrontation. What Riker does, Frost continues, is operate in the gaps. She gathers intelligence we need but can't officially collect. Her vessel contains monitoring equipment that tracks submarine movements, weapons testing, and environmental data that helps us predict Chinese naval strategies. "But sir," one of the junior officers ventures, "if she's working for us, why not just tell us to avoid her?" Frost's expression doesn't change, but his voice takes on an edge. "Because, Lieutenant, she doesn't work for us. She works with us. Linnea Riker is a sovereign asset. Do you know what that means?" The room remains silent. It means she operates with complete autonomy, no direct chain of command, no oversight committee. She decides her own missions based on parameters established in classified agreements with multiple agencies. Only 5 people in the entire Department of Defense have direct contact protocols for her. None of them are in this room. Wells absorbs this information, trying to reconcile it with his understanding of naval operations. "So she intentionally put herself in our path? Why risk being fired upon?" For the first time, Frost's expression shifts slightly, a hint of something that might be respect. "Good question, Commander. The incident today was part of a scheduled test of response protocols. Riker regularly probes our security measures to identify weaknesses. Your tactical assessment wasn't wrong. You responded to an unknown vessel exactly as your training dictated. The failure was higher up, where knowledge of phantom protocols should have prevented the encounter entirely." After a moment of consideration, Wells asks, "Sir, request permission to personally apologize." Frost studies him, then nods. "Granted, I'll have a launch prepared. The rest of you are dismissed to your duties. Expect formal notifications of reassignment within 48 hours. As the other officers file out, Frost gestures for Wells to remain. When they're alone, the intelligence director's demeanor shifts subtly. Wells, what do you know about intelligence architecture? The question catches Wells off guard. Sir, not much beyond standard naval intelligence procedures. Frost nods as if confirming something to himself. Linnea Riker isn't just an operative. 20 years ago, she designed the framework for how our intelligence agencies share and protect information. The firewalls that secure our most classified networks. The protocols that allow different branches to communicate without compromising security. Those are her creations. I don't understand, sir. If she's that valuable, why is she out there alone on a boat? Shouldn't she be in some secure facility? A ghost of a smile crosses Frost's face. That's exactly what the Chinese, Russians, and half a dozen other nations would expect. They've been looking for her in underground bunkers and secret bases for years. Meanwhile, she moves freely across international waters, hiding in plain sight. Wells tries to process this. The call sign mentioned on the bridge, Nemesis. What does that mean? In Greek mythology, Nemesis was the goddess of retribution against those who succumbed to hubris. She balanced out fortune, ensured that no one could claim too much good luck without consequences. Frost pauses. Riker earned that call sign after an operation in Damascus. Details are classified above your level, but it involved 8 hostiles who thought they'd gotten away with an attack on a diplomatic outpost. And they hadn't? They celebrated for exactly 6 hours before all 8 were found simultaneously in different locations. No witnesses, no evidence. Just 8 perfect operations executed in perfect synchronization. Wells feels a chill. One woman did that? One woman designed the operation. She has resources. Frost checks his watch. Your launch is ready. Remember, Commander, she agreed to this meeting. That's rare. 20 minutes later, Wells sits in a small boat approaching the Quietus. From this distance, he can see the damage more clearly. A small rupture near the waterline that's already been expertly patched. As he draws alongside, he notices other details, reinforced hull sections disguised as decorative elements, what appear to be defensive countermeasures camouflaged as standard marine equipment, and sensors hidden within what look like ordinary fixtures. Linnea Riker stands on deck, watching his approach. Up close, she looks even more ordinary. Deliberate ordinariness, he realizes. Her weathered clothing, practical hairstyle, and unremarkable appearance are calculated to avoid drawing attention or being memorable. Permission to come aboard, Wells calls formally. She nods once, stepping back to allow him space to climb onto her deck. Wells stands awkwardly as Linnea continues repairing her hull with practiced efficiency. The damage is minor, but her methodical movements suggest she's dealt with far worse. Ms. Riker, I want to formally apologize for the actions taken by my vessel and crew, Wells begins. The warning shot was intended to follow standard protocol, but clearly struck your vessel, which was never our intention. Commander, she interrupts, not looking up from her work. I put myself in your path. This was a scheduled test of response protocols. Your tactical assessment was correct. Your intelligence briefing was not. Her voice surprises him, clear, precise, with an accent he can't quite place. It carries authority without effort. They're dismantling our entire unit because of this, Wells says, unable to keep the frustration from his voice. Linnea finally looks up, her eyes sharp and evaluating. Number. They're restructuring because 3 people in your chain of command knew about Phantom protocols and failed to implement them. The system failed, not you. She reaches into a waterproof case and hands him a small, unmarked device the size of a standard naval encryption key. When you're reassigned next month, and you will be reassigned, not discharged, plug this into any secure terminal. It will give you access to the real briefings you should have had. Wells stares at the device, then carefully pockets it. Why me? Why not Price or one of the others? Lieutenant Commander Price follows rules. You understand why rules sometimes need to be broken. She returns to her repair work. Your file indicates potential. Your actions today confirmed it. My file? Wells feels a sudden unease. You had access to my service record? I have access to everything, Commander. That's part of the agreement. Wells digests this, watching as she applies some kind of advanced polymer to the damaged section of hull. The material bonds instantly, hardening to match the surrounding structure perfectly. The technologies you're using, Wells observes, they're well beyond standard civilian equipment. Most innovations reach the private sector eventually. Some just take longer than others. She secures her tools with practiced efficiency. You have questions. Ask them while you can. Wells hesitates, then decides on directness. Are you military? Intelligence? Private contractor? Yes. When no further explanation comes, Wells tries again. How many others like you were there? Other sovereign assets? Fewer than there were, more than there should be. She checks a reading on an instrument panel. Next question. The program you designed, Phantom. What exactly is it? Linnea pauses, seeming to consider how much to reveal. It's an intelligence architecture that operates in the negative spaces between official agencies. When the CIA can't talk to the NSA because of jurisdictional boundaries, when naval intelligence can't coordinate with foreign allies because of classification issues, Phantom creates secure bridges. I maintain those bridges. And that requires you to be out here alone on a boat? It requires me to be mobile, independent, and outside the system I help maintain. Separation provides perspective. She glances at him. Your last question, Commander. Make it count. As Wells turns to leave, a question that's been nagging at him finally surfaces. They call you something, a call sign. What is it? For the first time, Linnea offers a slight smile. Nemesis. The name hangs in the air between them, carrying weight beyond the simple word. Thank you for your time, Ms. Riker, Wells says formally, turning to leave. Commander, she calls as he reaches the edge of her boat. Remember that device I gave you. You'll know when to use it. As Wells returns to his transport craft, he glances back in time to witness something extraordinary. The Quietus powers up with previously hidden technology. Panels shift, lights activate along concealed seams, and what appeared to be ordinary sections of the hull reconfigure themselves. The entire vessel smoothly slips beneath the waves, leaving barely a ripple. By the time he reaches the Haverford and looks back, the sea is empty. It's as though Linnea Riker was never there at all. Back aboard the Haverford, Wells finds Director Frost waiting on the bridge. The other officers maintain a respectful distance, leaving the two men in relative privacy. She gave you something, Frost states, not a question. Wells nods, patting his pocket. She said I'd know when to use it. And you will. Frost looks out at the now empty sea. Commander, I've reviewed your service record. Your next assignment was going to be a desk job at Pacific Command, policy coordination, pushing papers. I'm offering you an alternative. Naval Intelligence has a specialized unit focused on unconventional threats. Officers with your particular combination of field experience and adaptive thinking are rare. Wells considers this. Does this unit work with Riker? Occasionally our paths cross. Frost hands him a sealed envelope. Your orders, should you choose to accept them. You have 24 hours to decide. As Frost departs for his helicopter, Wells opens the envelope. Inside is a single sheet with a set of coordinates and a date 2 weeks in the future. At the bottom, a simple message. The Phantom Division welcomes qualified candidates. Briefing materials will be provided upon arrival. That evening, Wells stands alone on the deck of the Haverford, staring out at the darkening waters of the South China Sea. The ship remains on station, though its mission has effectively ended. In 48 hours, most of the crew will be reassigned. His thoughts return to Linnea Riker, to Nemesis, and the glimpse he'd gotten of a world operating in the shadows of official channels. A world of sovereign assets and classified protocols, of operations that never appear in any briefing. He removes the device she gave him from his pocket, turning it over in his hand. Not yet, he decides, not until he understands more about what he's being drawn into. His communicator buzzes with a message from Naval Command. His official reassignment has been processed with unusual speed. In 72 hours, he's expected at a facility whose name he doesn't recognize, for a position that isn't described in the standard naval organization charts. Wells looks out at the horizon one last time, wondering if somewhere beneath those waves, Nemesis continues her solitary mission. He has a feeling their paths will cross again, and next time, he'll be prepared. 3 months later, Commander Thackeray Wells sits in his new office at Naval Intelligence Headquarters, reviewing classified files that would have been well above his clearance level in his previous position. The space is sparse but functional: a desk, secure computer terminals, and windows that offer a view of the Pentagon courtyard below. The walls are soundproofed, the door requires biometric authentication, and the entire room is swept for listening devices twice daily. The transition from ship command to intelligence work hadn't been easy, but Wells had adapted quickly. His experience with Linnea Riker had opened doors he hadn't known existed within the military structure, doors leading to operations and agencies that operated in the spaces between official channels. His screen displays a classified file, Operation Phantom Sentinel, that details Linnea's ongoing work across the globe. The missions she's completed, the lives she's saved, all without recognition or acclaim. Wells scrolls through reports of intelligence gathered from regions where official U.S. assets couldn't operate without diplomatic incident, terrorist plots disrupted before they could form, and technological innovations tested in the field years before they would reach standard military units. At the bottom of the file is a personal note. Some serve in the light, others serve in shadow. Both are necessary. N. Wells closes the file and inserts the device Linnea had given him into his secure terminal. As promised, it unlocks access to briefings he should have received aboard the Haverford. Information about designated zones where sovereign assets might operate, recognition codes, and proper response protocols. The information would have prevented the entire incident in the South China Sea. A knock at his door interrupts his thoughts. Director Frost enters without waiting for a response. "Commander, we have a situation developing. Conference room in 5 minutes." Wells follows Frost down a corridor accessible only to those with the highest security clearances. They enter a room where several intelligence officials are already gathered around a table, displaying holographic maps and data streams. Wells recognizes a few faces from his briefings over the past months, but others remain strangers. 12 hours ago, Frost begins without preamble, we lost contact with one of our sovereign assets operating in the Andaman Sea. Asset codename Lyra was tracking a ship suspected of carrying advanced weapon systems to a non-state actor in Myanmar. Wells studies the map, showing Lyra's last known position. Mechanical failure or interference? Unknown, her vessel's emergency beacon activated briefly, then went dark. Search and rescue operations are complicated by the fact that we have no official presence in those waters. An intelligence analyst steps forward. Latest satellite imagery shows increased patrol boat activity from Myanmar's navy in the region. They may have intercepted our asset. Frost's expression darkens. If they've captured a sovereign asset, the protocols are clear. We need to extract immediately before they realize what they have. "Sir," Wells ventures, "have we considered requesting assistance from Nemesis? Her operational area overlaps with this region." The room falls silent. Several of the officials exchange glances. "That's why you're here, Commander," Frost responds. "Nemesis has already made contact. She's requesting you specifically for a joint operation." Wells blinks in surprise. "Me? Why?" "She believes you've seen her operate up close. That gives you an advantage most intelligence officers lack." Frost slides a tablet across the table. "These are your orders. You'll rendezvous with her vessel at these coordinates in 6 hours. From that point, you'll be operating under her tactical command." The mission parameters are unusually open-ended. Assist Nemesis in extracting sovereign asset Lyra and any associated intelligence materials. Use of force authorized as necessary. No official acknowledgement of U.S. involvement if compromised. "Sir, what's my cover if things go wrong?" "You're on leave, personal vacation. If captured, you're a private security consultant who made very poor choices about where to sail." Frost's expression makes it clear this isn't a joke. Extraction team will be on standby, but they won't enter sovereign waters unless absolutely necessary. 6 hours later, Wells finds himself aboard a high-speed transport heading across the Andaman Sea. The night is moonless, perfect for covert operations. As they approach the rendezvous coordinates, the pilot reduces speed. "Commander, we're 5 minutes out. No visual on the target vessel." Wells isn't surprised. "She'll find us. Maintain position and wait." Right on schedule, running lights appear off the port side, emerging from nowhere as if the vessel had materialized from the darkness itself. The Quietus looks different from their last encounter. Its hull now a matte black that absorbs rather than reflects light, its profile lower to the water. As they draw alongside, Wells sees Linnea waiting on deck. She wears tactical gear now, functional and darkened, with equipment that speaks to the nature of their mission. "Permission to come aboard," Wells calls softly. "Granted," she responds, her voice carrying easily across the water, despite its low volume. Once aboard, Wells dismisses his transport with a predetermined signal. The craft disappears back toward friendly waters, leaving him alone with Nemesis. "Commander," she greets him formally. "Welcome to the Quietus." "Ms. Riker," he responds in kind. "I understand we have an extraction to perform." She leads him below deck, where the civilian facade of the vessel gives way to advanced technology. Screens display satellite imagery, thermal scans, and communications intercepts. A weapons locker holds equipment that wouldn't look out of place in a SEAL team arsenal. "Lyra was compromised while tracking a weapons shipment," Linnea explains, bringing up a detailed map. Her last transmission indicated she had confirmed intelligence about next-generation anti-ship missiles being delivered to insurgent forces. The Myanmar Navy intercepted her before she could transmit the full intelligence package. "They know what they have?" Wells asks, studying the tactical display. "Not yet. Her cover identity is solid, environmental researcher documenting coral reef degradation. But that won't hold if they access her vessel's hidden compartments, or if certain international actors identify her." "Certain actors meaning Chinese intelligence?" Linnea's expression confirms his suspicion. "The Chinese have a military advisory team stationed with Myanmar's naval forces. If they get involved in the interrogation, Lyra's cover will be compromised within hours. So what's the plan? We insert quietly, extract our asset, and leave without escalation. If Lyra's intelligence about those missiles is accurate, it's worth more than the risk of exposure." She pulls up detailed schematics of a coastal naval facility. She's being held here, at a restricted compound 10 kilometers inland from this naval base. Security is minimal. They're treating her as a simple territorial violator for now. Wells studies the approach vectors and security patterns. "We could insert by sea, but extraction would be complicated if we're carrying an injured asset." "My thoughts exactly," Linnea agrees, "which is why we're not using the obvious approach. The plan she outlines is bold to the point of recklessness, or would be for conventional forces. They'll pose as environmental inspection officials from a recognized international organization, using credentials that Linnea has already prepared. The Myanmar government, eager for international legitimacy, has been allowing such inspections as goodwill gestures. "These credentials will get us through the main checkpoints," Linnea explains. "Once inside, we locate Lyra, create a controlled distraction, and extract via the service road here." She points to a secondary exit on the compound map. "I have a local asset with a vehicle positioned for rapid departure." "And if something goes wrong?" Wells asks. "Then we improvise." She hands him a set of credentials and appropriate attire. "We leave in 20 minutes. The infiltration proceeds with surprising smoothness. Their credentials pass inspection at 2 checkpoints, with Linnea handling the interactions in flawless Burmese. Wells stays in character as her American colleague, saying little but observing everything. The detention facility is Spartan but organized. They're escorted through administrative areas by a junior officer eager to demonstrate compliance with international protocols. When they request to interview the environmental researcher detained 2 days earlier as part of their assessment, there's only minimal resistance. "Wait here," their escort says, leaving them in an office while he consults with his superiors. The moment they're alone, Linnea moves to the computer terminal and inserts a device similar to the one she'd given Wells months earlier. "What are you doing?" he whispers. "Creating our distraction and erasing security logs simultaneously." Her fingers fly across the keyboard. "We have approximately 7 minutes before someone notices the system intrusion." When their escort returns with approval to interview the prisoner, They're led to a detention block, separated from the main administrative building. The cells are simple, but not inhumane, further evidence that the Myanmar authorities haven't yet recognized what they have. Lyra turns out to be a small, wiry woman with close-cropped hair and the wary eyes of someone used to operating alone in dangerous territory. She shows no recognition when they enter her cell, maintaining her cover, even now. Ms. Whitman, Linnea addresses her formally, using her cover name. We're here from the International Maritime Conservancy to discuss your research activities in protected waters. Lyra plays along perfectly, launching into a detailed explanation of coral reef monitoring protocols. When the guard steps outside, her demeanor changes instantly. Extraction? She asks quietly. In progress, Linnea confirms. Intelligence package? Compromised. Had to scuttle the vessel with the hard evidence on board. But I memorized the key details: shipping manifests, serial numbers, contact protocols. Chinese military involvement confirmed. Linnea nods. Wells, prepare for our exit. 3 minutes. Right on cue, alarms begin blaring throughout the compound. Emergency lights flash as a computerized voice announces a security protocol in Chinese rather than Burmese. Linnea's distraction, forcing the local authorities to focus on what appears to be a Chinese military system override. In the confusion, they escort Lyra out through service corridors Linnea seems to know by heart. Guards rush past them toward the administrative buildings, paying little attention to 3 people walking purposefully in the opposite direction. At the service entrance, a nondescript truck waits with a local driver who acknowledges Linnea with nothing more than a nod. They climb into the back, concealed by cargo tarps, and begin the journey back toward the coast. Smooth extraction, Wells comments once they're safely underway. Almost too smooth. Linnea gives him an appraising look. You noticed? That level of access, the perfect timing of the distraction, the convenient absence of senior officers, this was coordinated from within. Very good, Commander. She checks a secure communication device. We have assets in many places. Some know their assets. Others simply receive unexpected promotions or transfers when they make decisions that benefit our operations. Lyra speaks up from beneath her blanket. The intelligence is solid. Chinese next-generation anti-ship missiles with modified targeting systems designed to defeat U.S. carrier group defenses. They're using Myanmar insurgents as cover for field testing. That's worth the extraction risk, Wells acknowledges. But how did you get compromised? I didn't, Lyra responds. My capture was deliberate. We needed to confirm which Chinese military officers were embedded with the Myanmar Navy. Now we have faces, names, and operational patterns. Wells stares at her, then at Linnea. This entire operation was theater. You wanted to be caught. Not exactly, Linnea clarifies. We needed specific intelligence that couldn't be gathered remotely. Lyra's capture created an opportunity to map their response patterns and identify key personnel. Her extraction by us forces them to reveal additional security protocols. And my participation serves multiple purposes. It demonstrates to Director Frost that you can operate effectively in sovereign asset scenarios. It provides you with field experience in extraction operations, and it allows me to evaluate your potential for future collaboration. They reach the coast shortly before dawn, transferring to a fishing vessel that takes them beyond territorial waters. By mid-morning, they rendezvous with the Quietus, which had been piloted remotely to their extraction point. Once safely aboard and underway, Lyra transfers her intelligence to Linnea's secure systems, then retires to rest. Wells finds himself alone with Linnea on the bridge as she sets course for international waters. Commander, she says after a period of comfortable silence, your performance exceeded expectations. Thank you, I think. He watches her hands move confidently across the controls. May I ask you something off the record? You can ask. I might not answer. How many of you are there? Sovereign assets operating independently like this? She considers the question. Fewer than there were. The program reached its peak during the early war on terror. Too many agencies creating deniable assets without coordination. Some went rogue, others burned out. Now we're more selective. And the Phantom Division I've been assigned to supports assets like us without controlling us, maintains the boundaries between official and unofficial operations. She glances at him. You've been identified as someone who understands those boundaries, someone who can work within the system while recognizing its limitations. Wells absorbs this information. And today's operation? Will it appear in any official reports? Number Lyra's intelligence will be sanitized and introduced through conventional channels. The Myanmar authorities will report an attempted cyber attack of Chinese origin. International inspectors will continue their work unaware they were used as cover. And the weapons will be neutralized before they reach deployment stage. Her tone makes it clear this isn't open for discussion. Sometimes the best operations are the ones that never happened. As they reach international waters, Linnea engages the vessel's advanced propulsion system. The Quietus accelerates smoothly, leaving minimal wake despite its speed. We'll reach the rendezvous point for your transport in 4 hours, she informs him. Until then, I suggest you rest. And after that, do we just go back to our separate worlds until the next crisis? Linnea studies him for a moment. The device I gave you months ago, have you used it beyond accessing the briefings? No. When you're ready, it contains additional access protocols, secure communication channels that bypass official networks. She turns back to her instruments. There may be situations where your position within the system and my position outside it create useful synergies. Wells nods slowly, understanding the offer being extended. I'll keep that in mind, Nemesis. For the first time, she smiles, a genuine expression that transforms her face. I believe you will, Commander. 4 hours later, as his transport arrives to return him to official duties, Wells watches the Quietus disappear over the horizon. He knows better than to look for it on tracking systems or satellite imagery. Linnea Riker will vanish as completely as she appeared, continuing her work in the shadows while he returns to the world of protocols and chain of command. But the device in his pocket represents a connection between those worlds, a bridge between those who serve in the light and those who serve in shadow, both necessary, as her note had said, both part of a system larger and more complex than most would ever know. As his transport heads toward familiar waters, Wells finds himself looking forward to the next time his secure terminal lights up with a message from Nemesis.